So my talk today, this idea of how do we build a positive digital world for kids together, is a theme that hopefully will get your wheels turning and thinking about what other kinds of possibilities are out there. So as Denise mentioned, I lead the Joan Ganz Cooney Center. We are named for the visionary creator of Sesame Street and Children's Television Workshop in the 1960s. And we take the kids-centered innovation and design methods that Sesame's pioneered for more than 50 years, and we help creators apply them to today's emerging media and technology universe. And we like to call this sesamatizing the world among ourselves. I'm just sharing that with you. We work with a wide array of individuals and organizations to help them mobilize research, to include diverse kids in their practice, and to ensure that new products have a positive impact and serve diverse kids everywhere. I don't have slides today. I decided on the occasion of this event that I would create a new talk to try and connect a bunch of dots across what we've been talking about here and what we do at the Cooney Center. I'm also joined by my colleague Sarah, as well as two dear friends from the field who are joining me for a panel after I speak here. So I'll lay some groundwork, and then we'll talk some more together. So you might say, why does Sesame Workshop have a center like mine? In this role, I've really been continuously reflecting on the legacy of Sesame over these 50 years, what it meant then and what it means today. We first went on the air in 1969, around the same time roughly that PBS launched, with a shared public service mission. In a lot of ways, both entities were a direct response to what Newt Minow famously declared to be the vast wasteland of what was on television at the time. And in some ways, Sesame offered an immediate response, a counterexample, to counter the pessimism that we as an enterprising people came up with yet another really magical technology, but ultimately, in spite of a lot of promise, maybe it wasn't necessarily elevating people's lives quite in the ways we'd hoped, which is kind of a theme that we see in successive generations of new technology that come to us. So Sesame really offered a bold alternative to that notion, and also offered something more fun and creative that was focused on explicitly helping kids learn and grow. So historically, we've all experienced these moral panics around technology. We've heard about some of them today already. We can think about what's coming for new and emerging technologies that will make us feel similarly uneasy. But it's helpful to think historically that society had similar reactions to emerging technologies of previous eras, including radio and television, of course, the associated changes that would happen in family life. And then even this motivated our co-founders, Joan and Lloyd Morissette, who noticed that kids were really hooked on commercials on TV and game shows and could sing the jingles and repeat the catchphrases, and they had this inspiration. How could we do something really positive and productive with that? So the reason the Joan Ganz Cooney Center exists is really to perpetually ask, how can we leverage those emerging trends and new media to be a force for good? Obviously, a lot has changed in those 50 years. We've gone from a single television set in a home to, and maybe one with only just a few channels one could access, to a world in which every person can ostensibly be their own broadcaster, their own channel, and reach people all over the world in real time. But I would say, in spite of that extreme amount of change, what we actually want for kids may not have actually changed that much. Just to take a quick poll, can anyone tell me an example of something that you might want a kid to experience or have as a result of the media they consume? I'm taking some volunteers. This is the first interactive session. Anybody? Language learning. What else? Manners. Right, good behavior, positive behavior, pro-social behavior maybe. Yes? Making human friends, and maybe Muppet friends. But this idea that maybe social connection is critical. So thank you for those brave volunteers, including from the side here. So this idea, though, might also, you might expand that to think about being creative and being playful, being able to determine your own path, contribute meaningfully to society. Those are some of the values that come across. So it may seem obvious to state this, but Even though the media ecosystem has changed a lot, the nature of child development has not. So we obviously couldn't necessarily anticipate or manage or plan for all these changes and what they meant for kids. But I want to challenge that notion and challenge all of us to think about what might be both aspirational and achievable within the current landscape, and also maybe think a little bit into the future of what's coming, to think about what it means to design for kids' benefit, and what that might mean for you and your work. It's no secret that the kids are online. If you're here in the room right now, you know that globally about 1 billion kids are online. Hundreds of thousands every day have their first online experience. And as we know, most technology is simply not designed for kids. It's designed for people, generic people, or adults, right? So even though companies know that kids are on all of their platforms. And then to add to this complexity, the challenge that we face is that kids are not monolithic. They have unique needs, capacities, capabilities, goals, across many stages of development. They also benefit from social support, which in the case of a lot of digital technologies that occur in isolation, they may not have that support, but over time, their digital experiences happen in a sort of evolving and expanding ecological system that includes connections with friends, so they're expanding circle of influence. And so it's in this ever-expanding, ever more fragmented digital world that we have to really think about how to continuously evolve our understanding of how to treat kids ethically and responsibly. And so the regulatory world that we've been discussing here to this point is a reflection of that effort. However slow moving it may sometimes feel, that's real progress. And one key comment, though, that I want to make is that today's creators still have to assume that their digital product or service will be used by children in some way. So to begin from that premise, how do we think about the future? Because these kids are on these platforms, there's a paradox that they're often early and eager adopters of new things. Anybody who's around kids can tell if you show them a new experience, a new thing to try, they will go and figure it out. But within these digital platforms, they're probably not well supported, and because they were not designed for them in mind, which seems self-evident now. And this creates a disproportional burden on kids who are more challenged to figure out how to navigate safely while also having fun. So if you accept that kids' experience online is unique, you should be able to make the leap that kids are not only your audience, but they can also be your design partners. Mostly our conversation today has been about kids as the downstream recipients of decisions made by adults on their behalf. One challenge that we devote a lot of our own attention to is that kids' unique perspectives are mostly ignored in the development of the products they will use because it's just difficult. It's expensive, it takes time and expertise, a lot of resources. But we know that kids' experiences are different from adults. Their needs are different, their ideas are different, and they're important in non-trivial ways. I mean, have you ever talked to a kid, right? You just know that they think differently, and sometimes it's really wonderful. And so I propose to us here in this room that we adopt an asset framing rather than a deficit framing. The inclusion of children's views is a critical part of both good design and good policy. So their ideas can help us better understand the problems and opportunities that we face and that need to be addressed in the digital world, which is to say their world, the one that kids understand in unique ways. And we know from 50+ years of Sesame Street that it is possible to center kids' learning, development, and equitable experience in product development and to be successful in the market at the same time. So I'm going to return now to this title of this talk, Building a Positive Digital World for Kids Together. And I was really hoping that this framing would prompt you to think about a couple of things. One is, what is a positive digital world, or how do I think about that, each of you? And then how might we build that together? I'm sure most of us in this room have a working definition of a positive digital world. You wouldn't be here, I think, if you didn't aspire to one. A place that you can feel safe, happy, accomplish your goals. But to dig a little deeper, just to shed some light on our perspective, I'd propose 3 levels that we might build toward. One, the first one is at the safe level, where designers must minimize risks to privacy and safety and also ensure that children's best interests are honored. And how might we build from the work that is mandated by a COPPA 2.0 or a COSA or an AADC? And I would say these are all necessary but insufficient steps for what we want for kids. And at the second level, that's the inclusive level, designers should create environments for wide accessibility. Consider developmental appropriateness and design for inclusion by serving populations too often not prioritized, such as youth with learning differences or from different backgrounds and different communities. And this is true responsible practice, really. Plus, we know from experience that if you start with the assumption that you want to have a positive impact on the hardest to serve, you will raise the bar for everyone. Third, at the thriving level, sorry, that word was thriving, designers should look to empower children to find meaning in their digital encounters by enabling play, collaboration, creativity, and promoting well-being as an outcome. The word thriving comes up more and more these days. I'm sure all of you have seen it constantly in the news, including terms like well-being, wellness, mental health, et cetera. That's come up earlier today. Often it's in the context of the potentially negative effects of digital experience, such as what has been cited in the Surgeon General's recent advisory on the effects of social media or his report on loneliness and isolation. We also need to adopt a positive framing for this kind of work. We want our kids to have not only what we want to protect them from. This activates our imaginations and inspires us to improve our designs, ultimately so that we make things that kids love and can benefit from. So how do we do that? We have some ideas. In fact, we have an approach that does three things. First, it puts children at the center of design. Second, it's evidence-based. And third, it considers how to balance keeping kids safe while also allowing them to explore, learn, grow, develop resilience, connect with others, find belonging, and feel empowered and competent. So let me explain each of those a little further. So first I said putting children at the center of design. Going back to my earlier comments, we really need to systematically include kids as partners in our work. The most commonly understood approach today is really playtesting with kids, which tends to focus on identifying existing problems, getting user feedback on existing designs. We actually published a guide to this at playtestwithkids.org if you are interested. But in our broader work, we encourage and support product developers to co-design with children. That's cooperative inquiry, collaborating with kids directly, by engaging them as design partners at the beginning of a product development cycle and emphasize the opportunities then to move from safe to thriving. Co-design with kids from diverse backgrounds, not just the convenient kids who live with you or your neighbor or whatever, kids that you've actually actively sampled to be more representative. And then enabling them to be equal partners in the design process is a win-win because the product teams benefit, and we've seen this, we've done a lot of this, they benefit from the perspectives of the kids, but the kids also develop unique skills and a sense of agency as they see their own ideas come to life and affect the outcome of the products they're working on. Second, the second point I made is about work being evidence-based. So similarly, it's informed by kids legitimately through their participation through research. It's tested in the field, not just in the lab. We go out to see what kids are experiencing at home, at school, the places they go, to better understand their experiences and what they say. And then all of these insights can be rolled up into the design of the digital environments to ensure that it's highly informed by the hard work of understanding kids' experience. So here's an example you hear about a little bit more shortly from my panelists. There's an initiative that we're involved in called RITEC, R-I-T-E-C, which is short for the Responsible Innovation and Technology for Children Initiative. It was founded by the LEGO Group and UNICEF. It brought together a group, or is continuing to bring together a group of international stakeholders to ask children what well-being means to them, formulate and test well-being outcomes in digital play, and to develop tools for businesses and governments to put the well-being of children first. Our colleagues at UNICEF right now are working on a design guide for business for this project that you can actually get involved in and help inform. So please let us know if that interests you, because that work is happening right now. Sarah or I can chat with you about that. Third, consider how to balance keeping kids safe while also enabling to do all the things they want to do. So this sounds like the holy grail in a way, but this is the work ahead. If you've already satisfied the other conditions, this is what we're hoping for, and our panel will really dig into this topic. To give you one more example from recent work, however, we just launched an initial cohort, our first cohort of a design fellowship on well-being. So we had a huge response from the field when we put out the call for applications, which is a really good sign of interest. And we selected 10 professional designers from companies large and small. So we have Google and Roblox and PBS Kids in the mix, but a lot of other small folks, small companies as well. But it was really created in response from industry saying, how do we do this? I think there's a lot of research that's published and frameworks offered, but there's a real gap in the last mile between what people want to do and what actually happens. And someone to kind of rigorously figure out that last bit of work and make sure that it gets implemented and tested is really hard. And so that's the experience we plan to have with our fellows. So stay tuned on that one. So to the comment that we'll build a positive digital world together, we obviously still have so much to learn about this. This is all new. This is work we've only been doing together for a year or two now at the Cooney Center. And it's collaborative. It really enables us to work across sectors and different organizations. We talk to people who are policy folks and investors, obviously researchers and industry. We talk to teachers and librarians. Everyone has a stake in the work. So I want to acknowledge that actually working in this space can be challenging. You're probably in this room because it's a challenge that you're interested in and working on actively. So thank you. So I think we can all say it's worth it, and we have to keep working. And it's possible to adopt an aspirational thinking for the work you do. So I will close just by saying there are also lots of folks already working in this space, and one of the pleasures of my role is that I get to go out and meet them all and try to partner with them. A few that I wanted just to say out loud here for you who may not know of them: the Fair Play Alliance, which is a coalition of game developers who seek to make better games that are better for people. We work with the Connected Wellbeing Initiative at UC Irvine. We work with the Center for Scholars and Storytellers at UCLA, the Center for Digital Thriving at Harvard, the Digital Wellness Lab at Boston Children's Hospital, and many others. And then, of course, all of you who are interested in being part of this work as well. So I'll close by saying, please let us know what you're up to. Please stay connected. You can follow the Cooney Center on all the social media platforms, even the terrible ones. And we'll continue to share all the tools and learnings that we are gathering from the field and from our own work. Okay.